Good morning. I'm Charlotte Jones, co-host of the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete, conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, a longtime civil rights crusader, and author of 7 books: Creative Insubordination, What Old Men Know, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Poet Emperor of Earth, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, plus another upcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. His books are available on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year, and a Detroit track is named for him. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's dr.johntelfordedd@aol.com. Dr. Telford also has a show on WCHB AM 1340 that airs on Saturdays at 9:30 in the morning and Mondays at 6:30 in the evening. That's on WCHB AM 1340, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. And now, without further ado, I present to you that old native Detroiter, the one and only Dr. John Telford.
Thank you. Oh, we got the music again. Thank you, Charlotte Jones, author of A Ain't Always for Apple. A Ain't Always for Apple, an erotic alphabet book. Adult alphabet book. Yes, an erotic adult alphabet book. A Ain't Always for Apple. And this book is going to really sell if you can never get a good manager. But I got to say this, my name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And we've got a new sky dawning on Detroit today, because Walt Rushing is in the studio today. Walt Rushing is here. Educator Walt Rushing. And he's got some ideas, man, that are going to blow your mind. We're going to be talking to Walt Rushing, and I'm going to share a poem because this is supposed to be a poetry program, but it never is. But it is a poetry program today because I'm going to read a poem. I'm going to read this poem, and it's called The Values of Verse because it reminds me of Walt Rushing. This poem reminds me of Mr. Rushing. The Values of Verse. Verse comes to us by pen or voice. We thus can always take our choice. Let me be also sure to mention that verse will gain us righteous vengeance via deft poetic arts that can topple oligarchs. Verse will clearly, plainly lay out what we poets dare to say out, like gentle mewling lambs no more, but rather with a fearsome roar as from some cacophonic corps of lions. And we have a lion in the station today in the person of Walter Rushing, because this gentleman left the business world to come and be an activist educator. And he has many, many insights to share with us today regarding the state of education in the city of Detroit. So, Walt, welcome to the John Telford Detroit Show with me and Charlotte Jones.
I thank you so much. I don't really know what to say behind a build-up like that.
Well, let me tell you, you have been built up because a man that I respect an awful lot is a man named Larry Hightower, the coordinator of the EMG, the email group.
That's right.
And he has the highest opinion of you, and I have the highest opinion of him. So if he has the highest opinion of you, I have the highest opinion of you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from a traditional family of four, mom, dad, and older sister. I grew up on the North End. I love that place, Alger Street.
Okay.
And that was back when a neighborhood was truly a neighborhood. I mean, there were so many kids there, it was amazing. So I'm obviously a baby boomer.
Yeah, but you weren't totally on Northern High School. You went to Northern High, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you played football for my man, John Dean.
John Dean.
John and I were at Butzel Junior High together many years ago. That man was salt of the earth. And you talk a little bit about that football team. We got time, we got a whole hour.
We don't have an whole hour, but go ahead.
Voice of my conscience.
We were pretty good. We had some ballers. We had some ballers. I mean,
You had Marshall Dill,
we had Marshall Dill.
one of the 2 or 3 fastest men that ever put on track shoes.
Yes, sir. And a couple of our guys made it to the NFL. Randy Logan was with the Philadelphia
Oh yeah,
Eagles.
oh yeah.
And I think Thomas Robinson made it. I forget which team he played for, but Tom made it.
Yeah, there's another Tom Robinson I remember ran for University of Michigan, but he was from the islands. But yeah, Marshall Dill, I think he won the Pan American Games,
did.
100 and 200 meters. I
He
mean, that
did.
guy could smoke.
Yes, he could.
He was in my view, he was one of the 3 surely fastest people who ever came out of Detroit. The fastest for sheer speed was Henry Carr out of Northwestern High. But they named the track after him. In fact, I'm one of 4 people our track's been named after. But Henry Carr was probably, he'd have beaten Usain Bolt on a rubber track.
You think so?
Oh, no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. They've done studies. Henry Carr tied the world 220-yard dash record when he was a senior at Northwestern High School, 20 seconds flat. And that was on old dirt track. I mean, Henry Carr, Marshall Dill, and a guy way back in the 1920s and 30s, Eddie Tolan, were probably 3 fastest sprinters just for sheer speed ever came out of Detroit.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's no doubt of that. But anyway, we're not, get me talking about track, I'll take the whole hour. Right, Char? Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so anyway, give us some more background on you that doesn't have to do with playing football at Northern High.
Well, as you said, I'm a retired educator, but I didn't start my career as an educator. I
Yeah.
started as an accountant.
An accountant.
Yes. And through a strange confluence of events, I found myself desiring to teach. And I think I have to blame my wife for that. Because she was lamenting all the time about, the shortage of African-American men and
Yeah.
the shortage of critical, areas like math and, those kind of things. So I'm like, wow. And I thought about it. I said, this is the first time in history that it actually was an advantage to be a big black man. Because the public schools really needed people who looked like me.
Yeah.
So after talking it over with my wife, she went along with it, because trust me, she's the boss. So if she wasn't going to go along with this, there was no way in the world I was going to do it. So she went along with it, and she said, yeah, go ahead.
So financially, that was probably a big drop in your pay from accounting to teaching.
It was fathoms deep.
Hear that? Fathoms deep.
It was fathoms
Yeah,
deep.
man.
People who remember the old DPS remember the hierarchy. There was ES, which is emergency sub.
Right.
Then there was RES, residential emergency sub.
Yeah.
Then it was ESRP.
Your emergency sub in
In
a
a
regular
regular
position. That's what
I
Wayne
came
Dyer
in-
was.
I
Wayne
came
Dyer.
in as an ES.
Yes,
And I
emergency
forget
sub.
what it was. Like, I forget it was so low. All I know is I took an approximately $53,000 pay cut.
Whoa, think about that. Ooh, jeez. Well, you know, I took a big pay cut when I was superintendent of schools, because I went all the way down to $1. They paid me $1 to.
You know, I heard you say that. I thought you were
Yeah,
joking.
yeah. No, I wasn't joking. I did the job for $1.
So that was serious.
Yeah, 2012 and 2013, because they couldn't get anybody with my credentials. That was at the time that they had an elected board under emergency financial manager.
Yeah.
That was Roy Roberts, a good man, by the way. But matter of fact, I ended up enlightening him a little bit, but it took too long. But anyway, let's get into your. Have we said everything we need to say about your background?
I guess that's up to you.
Well, tell us some more.
Well,
anything you want to tell us.
I think the thing that's most important that's going to actually kind of set the stage for what I'm mostly going to be saying is that because I didn't start my teaching career going through the traditional
Right.
4-year degree teaching certificate thing, I brought into the profession a different perspective, a different mindset, a different view, if you will. And as an accountant, you know, with CPA training, I worked for Deloitte Haskell and Sells, and you know, I was an auditor for a while. And you know, you bring a trained observer mentality with you.
Oh yeah.
So I was listening to my wife come home, you know, grading papers and talking about stuff she went through in school, and I'm telling myself, in the accounting profession, we have a concept called going concern, you know, and there's an opinion, an audit opinion that you give when you don't think a company is going to survive. So she was saying stuff to me about what was going on in schools, and I'm thinking to
It
myself,
was scary,
that's
wasn't it?
impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking that can't be, because no system can function.
When was this? When was this?
That was like in the late 80s.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay.
Late 80s.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff was she saying?
She was saying stuff like the kids were she didn't have as a teacher, she didn't have the authority to enforce the edicts that would produce the results the system said they wanted.
Still the problem. That's still the problem. How far did your parents go in school?
You know what? I got no idea how far my father went. I do know my mother's history because she came from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. She came up here to Detroit to live with her aunt to go to school. And she got a job at the old Packard plant during the war.
Oh yeah.
So she went, I don't even think she graduated high school. I'm pretty sure my dad did not graduate high school.
My dad didn't. He went to the
Pretty
seventh
sure he
grade.
did not.
7th grade.
And that was pretty much the thing back then. Our parents, the grandparents, they didn't finish it. They got a job to help take care of the family.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
dad's job was in the coal mine when he was 13 years old.
But of course, you know,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
he didn't have in book learning, my God, that man was a god to me.
Yeah.
There was nothing he couldn't do anytime it was needed. I mean, he was a man's man. So I ain't got nothing but pride for my dad.
My mother used to say, I may not read all that well, but I can add. I can do some math. So she was very proud of her math skills.
What was your parents' attitude toward education?
You know, and I think that's key for me. I think my success is firmly rooted in stuff my dad would say to me, because he didn't know theory about anything, but he knew what an A looked like. He knew what a B looked like. He knew what a C looked like. And finally, he knew what a belt and a butt would look like.
Oh yeah, man, that was my dad too.
And so he had his own standards,
Yeah.
you know, for me. And it was like, you know, I go to work at this nasty, filthy foundry, so you can do.
He was working in the Detroit foundry.
No, he worked at a place called Apex Foundry. I remember because I used to look at his pay stubs.
Where was that?
It was down on the waterfront.
Okay.
Off of St. Jean. I'll never
Okay.
forget it. Yeah. Apex Foundry.
Yeah, I think that might be the same foundry everybody was talking about, isn't it?
That place, yeah, and it killed him because he died of cancer when I was
Oh, wow.
11 years old.
Yeah, those old factories didn't have good health standards back then. You're watching the Dr. John Telford Detroit Show, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ, the coolest station in the world.
Thank you for that station identification, Miss Shar Jones. Charlotte Jones. Char J, author of A Ain't Always for Apple. Man, I ain't on the ball today.
That's okay.
But we got to get that. We got to get that book sold. And we are interviewing Walter Rushing, who, in Larry Hightower's opinion, is a guru on education. And if Larry Hightower says it, I say it too.
Oh, hold on a second. So you're retired from teaching?
Yes.
Okay. And what's your title now? Or do you have?
Actually, I went back to my accounting profession. I work as a CFO for an international entrepreneurial support company.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And I work from home.
Working
Awesome.
from home. Oh, that's
Right.
good. You know, I work from home too when I do my WCHB show.
Yeah.
I do it on
Yeah.
my cell phone. But tell us a little bit about your educational background before you went to Northern High School.
Okay. I went to William A. Moore Elementary School. That was on Alger and Cameron.
Oh yeah.
And then I went to Sherrard Junior High School, because we didn't call it middle school back then.
Yeah, they were junior highs.
And after Sherrard, of course, Northern. And before you ask, yeah, I remember the teachers, but I have very, very little memory of principals.
That's probably because you never got sent to them that much.
No, that wouldn't be true, but I didn't do any of the really, really bad stuff. I mean, yeah, I looked on the girl dresses and all that crazy
Hey.
stuff. But, but that was about it.
So talk about the teachers. What effect
Oh, my
did
God.
they have on your early education?
There were 3 teachers who were angels, I believe, were assigned to me, especially my junior high school teacher, Mrs. Shannon. I praise that lady. It's like God sent her to me at the absolute right time. There was in junior high school. Now, of course, you can see I can't forget these stories.
Right.
This young lady had accused a bunch of boys of being immoral with her, and I could never get away with that because I wasn't one of the popular guys. So I didn't do it. But the reason why she included me in the bunch was because she asked me for the answers to the math test and I wouldn't give them to her.
Oh.
So she was mad. So she included me in the bunch. So, and why that stands out with me is because we were sent to the counselor's office, and our counselor was a man by the name of Mr. Buhowski, a white ex-cop whose only solution for everything was to send us to More for Boys. You remember More for Boys?
You bet I do. I subbed there when I was a junior at Wayne State. You had junior status, you could sub. That was one of the schools that I subbed at, and the guy who later became a big basketball star and grew to be 7 feet tall was one of the students in the class that I taught. That was Larry Harding.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in that class. That's where I first met Larry Harding. But go ahead, talk more about.
He was about to send all of us to More for Boys, and it just so happened Miss Shannon was walking past the door. And, teachers weren't supposed to confront counselors. Teachers were supposed to stay in their lane. She dropped everything and came in there, and she said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm sending these boys to More for Boys." She said, "What did he do?" She was pointing at me.
Yeah.
She said, "What did he do?" And, he made up some stuff because it was all a lie. And she went out and called my mother.
Wow.
And those 2 black ladies tore him a new one.
Good.
Ripped him up one side of the wall and down the other.
Good.
Because I was an A student. And
Yeah.
she was not going to let him,
That would have been
mess me
terrible.
up. It would have been. Now, More for Boys was on the other side of Moore Elementary School, so I knew the school.
That was just
right
one
there.
step from the youth home, man. It was that
I was
close.
right there every day.
Yeah.
We used to call those kids we didn't want to be because they went More for Boys.
Yeah.
And that's where he was going to send me.
And this was like a reform school or something?
Yes, exactly.
That could have changed your whole life.
It sure could have.
Man,
Could have totally destroyed the path that my life took.
we all look back on our past and say, man, if it hadn't been for this, that would have happened.
Mrs. Shannon, rest in peace, God rest her soul. She saved my life that day.
Yeah. Talk about some more of your teachers at that school.
In elementary school, my savior was a man named Mr. John Cooley. He was the 5th grade teacher.
Okay.
He was a person who I think God put here to teach, because he was able to get through to us in a way that he made learning fun. He was funny. He once threatened me that he was going to turn me with an African soup bone if I didn't if I didn't do my handwriting better. Handwriting, something that's not taught anymore.
You got that
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, cursive writing needs
Yeah.
to be restored to the schools, no question. Oh man, when I was superintendent, I had so many goals, I just couldn't make them all happen because of that emergency manager. But you're right about cursive writing. That is an essential.
Yeah.
Got to be able to sign your
Yeah.
name.
Oh, they don't do that. No.
And in high school, it was Miss Marshall, senior intensified program teacher.
Miss
Caucasian
Marshall.
lady who was just as funny as can be. She was fantastic.
Name wasn't Aretha by any chance, was it?
I don't know we didn't know what teachers' first
Yeah,
names were.
okay.
At least I don't remember.
I knew some marshals who were very good educators, and she was one of them.
Well, we all had a crush on her.
You know, my teacher that had the biggest effect on me was a lady named Miss Spurk. She was my literature teacher at Estabrook Elementary, K-8 school over on Linwood and McGraw, and she had me writing poetry. And I've been doing it ever since.
Great.
You know, she turned me into a poet, and that's what I'm doing. But your elementary and junior high principals didn't have that much effect on you, but your teachers did.
Oh, yeah.
You know, tell me why an accountant and an auditor at that salary level. I mean, I know your wife talked you into it, but
Well, actually, no, I sort of scuttled myself, because we had an annual ritual, me and 5 of my buddies, well, 4 of them, it was 5 of us in total. We would always go to the Detroit Auto Show, and then, go out drinking, 5 guys, 2 accountants, a couple stockbrokers, and an attorney. And we, after a few drinks, we got to talking about, the problems in public schools and whatever. So me, in my big mouth, I say, we talk all this stuff, but why do we put our money, why do we put our money where our mouth is? And 3 of us, that's where the idea germinated to do it. So that's when I went home and said, and my wife had always been saying, you should teach if you really, we could really use you, yada, yada, yada. All right, fine. Fast forward, 3 of us made the switch.
Oh, wow.
2 of them lasted a year and went back. But I stuck it out. And I stuck it out, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I stuck it out because of those kids. I tell you, and I guess as a sidebar, and I think I told my wife this story, I actually literally had a dream where I was standing before the Lord, and he asked me, what have you done? And I handed him a pack of income statements and balance sheets. And he said, he said, nah, and that started me thinking, what have I done? Okay, I mean, I can balance an income statement, and I can balance a balance sheet, but what of substance, what of value have I accomplished? And at that time, it was like nothing. So teaching seemed to be a very attractive alternative. So for reasons other than money, I decided to make the switch. And it's funny. I wrote up my resume, shipped it into DPS, and I said, these are my credentials, these are my skills. Can you use a guy like me? And I literally didn't blink. And I was in a classroom with Stellwagen Elementary School.
What course were you teaching?
Math.
you started out as a math teacher?
Started out as math teacher. Oh, I started out as a deliverer of math instruction. I don't believe I became a teacher until 2, maybe 3 years later. Because to me, a teacher is a professional who can just like any profession, you've got all the skills necessary to accomplish the objective. Doctors have alternative methods. Methods A don't work, you go with method B. Attorneys have the same thing. For me to be a teacher, I had to have things in my toolbox I could pull out when I needed to use it. And starting out, I didn't have that. So, I don't consider myself a teacher until my third year.
I felt that I was a teacher right from the get-go, but maybe I just was deceiving myself. I can remember when I started teaching, I never really had the training that I should have had. They just handed me the book, say, here's a book, here's a class, there you go, but you either sink or swim.
Pretty much.
And it turned out that I swam, and I've been swimming ever since. I'm really I'm a classroom junkie. At the age of 87, I have to be in a classroom with kids. Some people, have to breathe. I have to be in a class, whether I breathe or not.
And to be honest, I didn't, there were some intangibles that I brought into the position that I didn't know not to use because, again, I wasn't formally trained yet. So when I would tell a kid, sit down, they sat down.
Yeah, me too. That's number one. I mean, if you don't have the discipline, you can't do anything else.
Absolutely correct.
You have to have that. And some folks, I mean, you can't teach them how to discipline kids. You either got it or you don't have it.
And that's hard. And see, that's part of the screening process. Not everybody is cut out to be a teacher. I had to learn that the hard way as well, because the task that you are undertaking is awesome. It's I mean, you've got lives in your hands.
That's right.
I used to tell my kids that the crime you may get 20 years for committing a murder, but the crime perpetrated against you in this classroom, if you live to be 100, God blesses you to live to be 100 years old, you're going to pay for this crime for 82 years. You're going to pay for this crime for the whole rest of your life.
Did you teach reading?
No. Believe it or not, when the district was running short of teachers, I understand that my certification said K through 8, all subjects.
Right.
And look, I get it, but my principal, God bless him, he had, through no fault of his own, he had to move me into reading. I said, now you could do that. I said, I don't want to be insubordinate. I said, but I'm telling you now, I don't know crap about teaching reading. I'm married to a reading teacher. I know what a good reading teacher is, and that ain't me. So don't say nothing to me when these kids flunk these reading tests, because I'm telling you now, I don't know how to read. I even put it in writing. I sent it to him. And to his credit, he sent my letter to the district. And he put a little note on it and said, this man has something to say. Y'all might want to listen to.
Who was superintendent then?
I don't know. We were in Area F. You remember the old areas?
Oh, yeah.
Area ABC. We were in Area F. So he sent it to the Area F superintendent. And apparently, word came back to say, put this man back in the math room. And I think it was just to shut me up. Because I had no problem telling the world that I don't know how to teach reading. Yeah. And as much as it pains me to admit, as a math instructor, reading is the most important subject.
You got it.
The most important subject from K to 4th grade. If a kid gets out of 4th grade and he can't read, his life is ruined.
If a kid gets out of the 3rd grade and he can't read, his life is ruined. I mean, he's either going to end up on the dole, or he's going to end up in jail, or he's going to end up in the graveyard.
Yep. We had a saying, and I'm sure you've heard of it. From kindergarten to 4th grade, you're learning to read. After that, you're reading to learn.
That's right.
You don't know how to read, and it's that activism part of me that, as the accountant, and I'm seeing the inequities and the stupidity. My principal, he started taking advantage of my anger.
Good.
He started sending me to book adoption things, where you had teachers that had to go and participate in book adoption. So I'm going to the little classes that they had where book publishing companies would come in and, try to sell you everything. So this lady standing up here, she's talking, she's, commenting on how great their book series is. And I'm listening to everything she's saying. And nobody's saying anything. So I raised my hand and I said, but everything you're describing requires that the kid know how to read. What if they can't read? She says, well, you do this, 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 this. I said, nope. Still, if the kid can't read, how can you do that? And after the third time for that, she finally says, okay, if you can't read, they can't do it. I said, thank you. Thank you for telling the truth.
Right.
Because you're selling us a line of bull.
And that's what they try
Yeah.
to do. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. What you got?
Thank you, Charlotte Jones, for that station identification. What I got is Miss Virginia Starkey. Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known simply as V, the proprietress of V's Boutique, offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories for ladies. You can find all sizes of women's fine apparel in V's one-stop excellent customer service at V's Boutique that you can't find anywhere else in Detroit anymore. V's is at 16423 East Warren Avenue, 16423 East Warren Avenue, right around the corner from the Alger Theater and right around the corner from one of the few libraries that is still open in the city of Detroit. So make an appointment with V by calling her at 248-662-6622. That's 248-662-6622. You can't go wrong by buying your fine apparel at V's Boutique for Ladies. And
She gets a lot of my money, y'all.
does she? Yeah. Well, she's got the best stuff. She goes all over the place. Buying stuff and it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. She's got everything there. But we are interviewing Walt Rushing, and Walt is a man who entered the profession of education kind of late in his career. He had been making an awful lot of money in the private sector before he did that, but he is a very dedicated gentleman. So Walt, tell us a little bit about that new WSU master's degree that you got. How much mentoring from principals and teachers did you get in helping you get there once you had the degree? Talk a little bit about why you did all of this.
Yes, sir. Sometime after I started teaching and I was in the ES classification, a joint program between Wayne State and DPS was created called APT, Alternative Pathways to Teaching, where they were taking people like me with the degrees in other areas who had an interest in teaching and putting us through a truncated kind of academic program at Wayne State University to get an MAT, a Master's in Teaching Certificate.
Wow.
And that's the program that I went through. And one of the interesting things, it was like a cohort group, and all of us were taking the same courses at the same time in the same class and everything. So having been, again, I was a 20-year accountant before I became a teacher. So
20-year accountant.
So in part of that incarnation, I was a grant accountant, and my experience with
You were a what?
grant.
Okay.
You wrote grants?
Yeah, I wrote grants,
okay.
and I did accounting for clients who received grants. And I know that grant funds have a tendency to dry up midstream sometimes. So I sort of did my little maverick thing and, deviated from the group because I'm figuring, okay, we're a year into this program and I'm thinking, I like the idea of having my tuition paid for. So I started doubling up and tripling up on my classes because I wanted to get finished quicker than the cohort did.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in, I think I had 5 classes left, so I decided what the heck. I enrolled in all 5 of the classes. I wanted to be done. And I got a call from my advisor. I won't name the gentleman, Wayne State University advisor, who called me in for a meeting. And I said, okay, I came in, and he said, I want to talk to you about, the classes that you've enrolled in. I said, okay. He said, well, we don't think that you should be going out. Now, at this time, I'm like 37, 38 years old, and I'm like, dude, I got this.
Yeah.
You know, you know,
I'm
not a
on
kid.
top of it. I'm on top
I'm
of
not a
it.
kid. I got this. You know, I
Yeah.
can do this. And he just refused to let it go. So finally, you know, in frustration, he went over to his desk and he grabbed a manila folder that he'd already had there. But his reaction when he opened it told me that he didn't even bother to look at it.
Yeah.
He had already assumed something. So when he opened that folder, it stopped him dead in his tracks, and he said, "Oh, you got a 4.0." He said, "Oh, you got A's in math." I'm like, "Hello, I'm an accountant."
Yeah.
And that's when he lowered the boom. He said, "Well, I guess I better re-enroll you in 3 of your classes."
So he was saying you had taken on too much, is that what he was saying?
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
But he had taken the liberty of unenrolling me.
but he saw your capacity, so he ended up doing the right thing.
Well, yeah, I ended up having to re-enroll, but one of the classes was filled, so I had to take it way out. At the time, Wayne State had an extension out on 12
Wyandotte.
Mile and Orchard Lake Road. I had to go way
okay.
the hell out there
Yeah.
to take the class that I was enrolled way down the campus. But again, I got done with it.
Yeah, I taught for Wayne a couple of times. One of those extensions. It was in one I did was in Wyandotte though. Okay, let's see. You taught public school. You taught charter school, and you taught for the EAA,
That's a
the
big
Education
mistake.
Apartheid Authority.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what I called it, the EAA. That was a quasi-school district created by Governor Snyder. Took away, I think it's 15 of our schools. And talk a little bit, do some comparing and contrasting, because you have taught in the Detroit public school system, and you've taught in the EAA, and you've taught in charter schools.
And I think we're right now getting into the guts of this thing. DPS was DPS, okay? Everybody who's anybody understands what DPS was. Was it effective? No. Could it have been better? Sure. Charter school, the charter school movement, in my opinion, had the potential to be great because some of the restrictions that were placed on people in the public school sector, charter schools didn't have.
That's
so
right.
They could have, you know, they could have done a lot more. They were, I think, academically achieving better than DPS, but not much better.
No.
So for the money that was being bartered away, we weren't really getting the bang for our buck that we should have.
That's for sure.
And I need to apologize right now before I say it. The EAA was an absolute joke.
No,
Just
it
a
was
flat out joke.
it was a criminality, is what
I
it
lasted
was.
all of 4 days.
4 days?
4 days.
Wow.
I lasted all of 4 days. I called the principal and I said, "There's no way in hell I'm coming back." I just couldn't. I knew something was wrong when I interviewed for the job, and the assistant principal came in and he saw me at the board, you know, lecturing. He said, "No, we don't do that." He said, "I don't ever want to see you lecturing at the board. The kids were supposed to be on these computers." And that's what I'm supposed to march around the room and help kids on the computers while the kids are looking at porn sites and look, the kids were looking at porn sites. One kid was so ingenious, he queued up this raunchy, filthy, nasty song, and I couldn't get that thing off that computer to save my life.
That's what
I
kids
finally
gonna
had
do.
to pull
You
the
learn.
battery out of the thing, and it still kept going.
4 days, did you say?
4 days. And what did it for me was these 2 young ladies were sitting there and they were talking the whole period, just talking. So I said, "I want you to change seats so that you two can talk." This young lady flat out refused to move, and she looked at me like I had grown a third arm out of my head. I mean, she just. So the assistant principal said, "Well, We really can't do. I said, you know what? I'm out of here.
Yeah, man.
I'm out of here. I don't want or need the money that bad.
Yeah, that was hopeless.
It was a joke. It was a joke. And I apologize to all EAA teachers out there who were dedicated and motivated,
Yeah.
but they worked for a dung heap of an organization. You can tell I'm still really.
Well, I totally
blown away
concur
by it.
with you. And they offered me a big job there if I would leave the superintendency, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm not.
So I don't even understand this system. You said it was EAA?
Yeah, educational achievement.
Yeah, that's what they called themselves, but there wasn't any achieving going on.
And when was this system, was this like a part of DPS?
They
or-
took 15 of our schools. The Governor Snyder created it, actually. They took 15 of our schools away from us. Some of the high schools they took away too. And it was an absolute failure, an absolute farce.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
And
I don't have words to describe how bad it was.
What years were they?
2012,
You know what? I think I
13,
blocked it
back
out. So
in-
yeah. It was
right
definitely
around
in the
that,
teens.
right
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
that time, because that was when I was superintendent in Detroit under an elected board, but under emergency financial mismanagement, and they tried to buy me away from the Detroit schools because they knew that the Detroit schools probably weren't going to get anyone with my qualifications to work for $1. I worked for $1 because I wanted to get them over the hump. But they took me into this house in Grosse Pointe, and me and my wife, they took us into this house in Grosse Pointe. It was LaVon Sheffield was kind of the go-between. She was a friend of mine, and we had worked together in the DPS. And they offered me a big salary if I leave Detroit. And my wife was upset that I didn't take it. That was my third wife, Adrienne, who's passed now. And she was very upset with me. She said, well, they're paying you $1 here, and they're going to pay you $185,000 here, and you're turning it down? I said, yeah, I'm turning it down, because it would have been like being a trustee at Auschwitz. And then she understood, being a Jewish lady. But again, we're digressing. I want to talk a little bit about your, quote, equation for academic achievement, unquote. Talk a little bit about that and share something. You've got something there.
Yes, I do. In fact, I had it laminated back when I created it. Again, taking all of my skill sets as an accountant / auditor, problem solving, yada, 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 I was witnessing and observing all kinds of things going wrong in the educational arena, and why, because the question here is, why weren't we producing academically achieving children?
I can tell you why, but go ahead.
So, again, being a mathematician, we tend to put things in equation form a lot. So what I did was I created this equation called CID plus CCA plus HS equals A squared. So the CID was supposed to mean competent instructional delivery.
Okay.
Gotta have that.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I have to deviate and say, that was happening. Instruction was being delivered. And for the most part, it was competent. Those teachers were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they really, most of them, truly wanted to do right.
That's
by
right.
kids. They did. The CCA was actually more aimed at the administration. CCA stands for Correct Classroom Activity, which means that you have to have the right activity going on in the classroom. It also means you can't put a person with a degree in basket weaving in a room, in a math room.
Right.
You can't put a math person in a reading room. Yeah, that kind of thing. Now, I understand why sometimes the system had to do that, because you need a warm body in there when you don't have, anybody there. Look, I get it, because I know, push comes to shove, a parent would probably agree, I'd rather have a body in there than have nobody in there and somebody murder my kid. So, okay, I get it. I do get it. But, if we're firing on all cylinders, we need to have the correct people in the correct position at the correct time.
Duh.
The last factor in my equation, HS, that's the one where the ball was always dropped. That's, to me, that was the linchpin that resulted in non-academic achievement. HS stands for homework and study. That was not happening. It wasn't. I'm sorry, it just was not happening. And the reason why it wasn't happening was because we were not engaging parents at the level they need to be engaged.
Right.
We have no control over the children when they leave the building. And that's where me and my administrators would get into the biggest arguments and fights, because again, I consider myself a thinking person with some common sense. So when a principal would come up to me and say, why aren't your kids coming to school? What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, nothing. What the hell are you asking me for? I don't go home with these kids. I don't live with these children. What do you expect? Literally, what do you expect me to do? What can I do? You know, it's those kind of ignorant comments that made me think, okay, look, maybe because he's under pressure, you know, they say crap rolls downhill. Maybe he's under pressure from people above him to do this, and he doesn't have any real tangible, concrete way to fix the problem, so he rolls the crap down. Well, the problem is I'm not taking it. You know, you can, you know, it goes around me. I'm not taking it.
You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
So what I observed was homework and study was not. And education or academic achievement is a two-sided coin. You've got to teach, no doubt. But the other side of that coin is students have got to learn. They've got to put forth the effort to retain and master the knowledge. There's no way around that. You can have the best instructional deliverer in the world. You know, I can pull rabbits out of hats and, fly, robots around the room and everything. But if the kid is not interested and is not doing their part of the work, we're not getting A squared, which is academic achievement. And that's, I mean, there were problems in the other two factors, but this is far and away the biggest one. The biggest failure was in homework and study. Now, you can argue why homework and study isn't happening, and I know there are some legitimate reasons why kids could go home and they couldn't study because of issues. Look, I get all of that. I'm simply from a clinical standpoint saying this is the reason why it's failing. Now, we can fix that by putting the funds where it believes. So if a kid's going home hungry, then doggone it, get some food. You know, if the kid is going home and he has to babysit because mom has to work, look, I understand that because life goes on, but that's where those dollars should be spent to help prop up those areas where the failure is occurring. And that's what's not happening.
My little grandson, he stopped by my house and he's 7. He says, my teacher gives us a snack every day before I leave, so I'm assuming that she does this out of her pocket because I don't see where those funds are there for that type of thing. And like you say, some of these teachers are very admirable in the things that they do. So
No doubt.
And she's just thinking, like you said, maybe they're hungry when they get home. He pulled out a juice and apple or something he had, and he was very excited, and he was very appreciative of the fact that his teacher gave him a snack before he left school. And I said, she do this every day? He was like, most every day, Grandma. So she's taken that part into her own hands. She's given them something to eat just in case it's needed. And that is a big point of it.
Yes, ma'am. The teachers are the first line of defense. They see all of the problems because they're the ones trying to accomplish the objective the schools say they want. So they're the ones that do it. And when they don't get help from the administration, they generally do it out of their pocket. They pull it out. I even made the mistake. Sometimes they can bite you, though. Because I saw one kid in my class who had these floppy gym shoes and they, ragging or whatever. So I took it upon myself to go buy the kid a pair of gym shoes, and I did. Mom brought them back to me the next day. But see, shows you can make even good intentions can sometimes go awry, because she brought them back and said, look, my son is not poor. The problem is he wanted these $120 Air Jordans and I wasn't going to buy them. And I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry, my bad. I stepped where I shouldn't have stepped, because she was trying to teach him a lesson. and I interfered with that. So, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it can bite you.
So wrap
Yeah.
it up for us. Tell us what you want people to know about everything.
Because this problem was the biggest, again, trying to be a problem solver, I came up with what I call my ongoing parental involvement ideas. This is what I would love to have, and if I were to ever get back into education, this is what I would do. I would go around and give parental involvement seminars. That's what I would want.
Okay.
I came up with this acronym called ADORE. I want parents to adore their children. So what does that mean? The A says, assume that your student has homework and ask your student to explain it to you. To me, if he can't explain it, then there's a breakdown somewhere. Either he wasn't paying attention or the teacher wasn't doing their job. So you don't assign a kid to do work and you don't prepare them to do it. So that was the A. The D. Demand that your student take notes in every class and demand to see those notes from that kid every day. Demand to look at them. Show me what you did. Okay? Oh, observe. At least one time a year, go and sit in your kids' classrooms and observe what's going on. Know firsthand what you see. The R is review all graded assignments returned to your child. I can't count the number of times parents will come to parent-teacher conference. Well, how's he getting an F? I'm like, how do you not know he's getting an F? You know, how do you know?
I'm sorry. It's not. Go ahead.
And the last one is E is like erase, and this is what I wanted parents to really do. Erase any guilt feelings that you might have. Because, this is a response for parents telling me, well, I was never really good in math. Mom, you ain't got to be. You're not the one sitting in this class. He is.
Mm-hmm.
He is. Don't let him run that game on you and say, well, you can't help me. No, that's what I'm paid for.
All right. Well,
That's why I'm there.
that's going to wrap that up. John, what you got?
I'd have this guy as a principal if I was superintendent, but I'm not anymore.
Thank
well,
you for that compliment.
Well, hey, you know, Larry Hightower is totally right about you. I'd have him as a principal too, if I could ever get him in the classroom in the school. Uncivil Warfare is a poem that I like to say both on WCHB and on this show. I wrote it on January the 6th, 2021. I got to say it. Okay. The alternative title is The Turd That Hasn't Flushed. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. God yet hasn't pushed the lever on the traitor Trump forever.
You've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and co-host Charlotte Jones on WJZZ Detroit Internet Television, coming to you live every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Contact Dr. Telford at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Or at Dr. John Telford, EDD